Hello, this is Kelly from Made to Shine Designs with another tutorial. This is the one for the sunflower from my site, Made to Shine Designs 2 on Etsy. And these are the things that are in the kit. This one has a lot of parts to it. So you'll have a felt ball, 3 different sizes of strips, and then there are 32 total petals. And you'll notice that there's just a slight difference in the petals. If you put them next to each other, you should have 16 that are this longer size, and then 16 of this size that are a little bit shorter. Okay, so we're gonna push those petals out of the way for just a minute. We're gonna work on the center of the flower, which is all of these strips. So we start with the felt ball, and that's going to be the very center of the flower. And then the next part is going to be this strip, the narrowest strip that you have. And what we're going to do is we're going to be using the glue, and we're just going to be wrapping around the center of, around the outside of the felt ball. And you'll see that you want this to be about the same depth. You want the felt ball not to stick out a long way on top of where we're going to twirl this around. So we're just going to add some glue here to get started. I'm going to start it this way. Lay it down and then just kind of roll it a little. The hardest part is always getting started. Any flower, the first few steps are always the hardest. After that, you're just kind of filling in and going around the circle. All right, and you're going to just keep twirling around like this. And so you'll just need to keep adding some glue as you go along. Kind of keep the glue in the center of the strip so that you're not having glue seeping out to the top here. You don't ever want your glue to show. And we just go all the way to the end. I did a little bit too much glue, that's okay. Okay. So you wind up with about 2.5. And I think what I'm going to do, let's make it where it's just 2. So I'm going to pull this back off, and I'm going to stop it where I started so that this circle is even all the way around. Sorry, got to get my scissors. I left them over on my cutting mat. Snip that there. So do you see how this is where I started right here? So I'm just going to cut it right there so that this is an even circle where it's 2 rows all the way around. You can get rid of the extra of that. And depending on how tightly you wove it, you may be cutting off more or less. It's not a big deal. All right, so the next piece we're going to use is this one. And for this, we're going to use the folded snipped kind of way of doing the center. We've done that before in some of our other flowers. So just fold this over so that it's folded over in half. All right, and you can decide what width you'd like for your strips to be snipped. Just a little, I'm just going to do a little medium snip here, and you'll see I got the glue up too high, so it's not going to cut through there. So try to keep it along the edge. That makes the snipping a little easier. And then you need some very sharp scissors at the tips. These are great scissors for that. Olfa's little hand scissors are very sharp at the tip, and you can continue to get them sharpened. I'm lucky my husband has a scissor sharpening tool, an electric one. So my scissors stay nice and sharp. That's very important. You'll get very frustrated making felt flowers very quickly if you don't have some nice good quality sharp scissors. All right, go all the way to the end. Okay, so you're left with this little piece that's snipped. And we're just going to start exactly where we finished. And we're going to go around. Again, we want it about that same height. And again, this should go around probably 2 times. But you do want it to be as even as you can, so you may want to pull it so that we can get it as close around to 2 times as possible. It's not going to make it around 2 times, so I actually think, let's decide what I want to do here. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go back and I'm going to cut off a little more of this. So that I could try to get this around 2 times. I'm going to pull it real snug and tight in there. See if I can get it to go around twice. If not, I'm going to know that in the kit I need to make it a little bit longer. This is the size that I usually use though, so yeah, if you pull it really tight, you can get it back around. Okay, so I was just doing it too loosely. Pull pretty tight as you're working your way around, and you'll get it back to the beginning again, because you want to have 2 rows. You want to have 2 rows of these folded snips. And this is something, you know, if you're watching and you haven't started making it yet, this is a good example of why it is a really good idea to go ahead and try to do it without gluing first, and just keep your sizes in mind, so you know like how tight and how loose to do things. You could also just make this 1 row if you don't like pulling it so tight. You can make that inner circle only 1 row. That might also help you to get that around twice. Okay. Now for this one, this next row, we're not going to fold it. We're just going to snip it. So we've actually done 3 different inside circle techniques here. So we did one without snipping it. We did one folding it and snipping it. And now we're doing another one where we're just going to snip. And I'm going to do these snips pretty narrow. So go all the way down. I know it's not too exciting if you're just watching and not doing it along with me to watch me snip this, but all part of the process. And for this step, we are only going to have this go around 1 time. So this is probably, well, not probably, it will be too long. So if you want to not have to snip unnecessarily, you can measure it first, but we're going to go around. I just want this to go around 1 time. Now, I'm giving you this extra because you can choose if you want it to go around multiple times. You want to try to stretch it, or there's different ways that you could do this flower. So you choose what you want to do. But the way I'm choosing to do it is that I'm going to do it like this with the center just going around 1 time. All right, I just kind of measuring how far I want that fringe to come up. I don't want it to come up too far. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna glue this down just kind of at the base of where I did the snipping. Okay, not all the way at the bottom. Always good to, you know, put everything down dry so that you can decide your spots where you want to glue. Okay, so we're gonna go around just once, so I'm gonna snip off the rest of that. Okay, and then because I moved that down some, I'm going to go ahead and snip off this extra part on the bottom. And something else to consider, you can switch the order of these around. You could take that wide strip and fold it in half and make that the one that goes in the folded part. And then the shorter piece, the narrower piece that goes around. For this time, I liked the colors better to do it this way, the way that I cut it. So so I'm gonna do it this way. All right, so then the next ones you want to do are the petals that were the shorter ones. Okay, so you have 16 each of this one that's a little bit longer and the ones that are shorter. So you wanna get the ones that are a little bit shorter. All right, now you're gonna have way too much petal. I'm giving you the option here that you can do a lot of different things with this petal. But what we're going to do is we are going to make it not stick out a whole lot above this because we're gonna be doing other rows. There's going to be 4 rows of this flower all together. So for this first row, I'm going to have it come about there. So that means all of this is going to be extra. So I'm going to put the glue here instead on this one so that then I can kind of mess with where I want this petal a little bit. Okay. Now, when I get that petal where I want it, then I'm going to go ahead and put a little more glue up here on the side. All right. Now, normally when we do petals, for most of the, well, all the flowers I've put on the videos so far, but depending on which order you've done them in, most flowers we work in a circle. So I would go and I would add this next one and we'd keep going around. There's going to be 8 on this row. So that wouldn't be normally what we do. But with a sunflower, I want the petals to be a little more symmetrical. So I'm cutting that off just so you see there. But and by symmetrical, I mean I want 2 to be across here, and then I'm going to put 2 across here, and then I'm going to put the ones in between. So for that case, we're going to do them more mirrored instead of going around the circle. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to try to get this one about the same height that I did that one, and glue that underneath and snip off the extra. So see how now I have 2 that are exactly across from each other, rather than what we would normally do of going around in a circle. So now what I'm going to do is the next ones I'm going to put, like if that was 12 and 6, and now I'm going to do 3 and 9. So underneath. Okay, and then now we're going to put the ones that are going to fill in. So now you're going to go in between those 2 all the way around. Oops, I put that one on from the bottom rather than looking at the side. I had it a little too high. Sorry. I sometimes forget I'm doing the video for you and I start getting it up too close to my face and getting out of the shot. Sorry about that. Okay, so now we just have two more opposite here. And just keep snipping those off because it's going to get way too bulky under there if you don't. It's going to be bulky anyway, no matter what you do, but we want to limit that as much as we can. All right, so now we're all the way around, and you see how by doing it that way, I've made it just perfectly symmetrical. A sunflower is going to look better that way rather than the overlapping petals. I just think that looks a little more realistic for what we want like a felt sunflower to look like. A little more symmetrical. And then too, if you notice, you've got the petals, they're not overlapping, one over, one under, one over, one under like that. This time, these four are up and then these two are kind of behind it. So that's kind of purposeful also. All right, so now for the next step though, you can go ahead and just do them in that circular pattern. So now we can go ahead and do one on each of these little holes here. And I find this is easier if you kind of hold it in place and then place the glue rather than like we were before. Because you definitely want that to be that same height. And you could, if you like doing it more the symmetrical way, you could continue doing that. You could do them across from each other. It's going to vary the look of like the pattern of the way that the petals are overlapping or whatever if you do that. But there's a million ways that we can do these different flowers. So definitely experiment. Do things a little different. You're going to over time develop kind of your own style with things. These videos are just to get you started if you've never done one before. All right, so we just keep going around. You saw me look underneath. You do have to do that sometimes to remember where you were, where your next petal goes. Just keep an eye underneath there. And, I don't know about you, but you should already be seeing like all kinds of variations that you could do with this flower in the center. Like I said, this is a very versatile design on here. And depending on how you do that center, it may not even wind up looking like a sunflower. That's okay. And sometimes I do sunflowers where I don't put a felt ball. I just do this inner piece and just do it a lot bigger, and then just have one row of this is another way that you can do those. All right, so that's all the way around. So now you should have used all of the smaller, shorter petals. So obviously now all we're going to do is we're going to add, just keep adding petals going around. And as we're doing this, you see that that's just going to barely stick out there. Or, you know, you can make it stick out more if you're going to want to make a bigger petal. However, you know, whatever you're going for with this. And honestly, you could quit right there. That's a very pretty little flower just by itself. This just adds more size, like a large sunflower design. So again, you've got to make it your own and decide how it fits your needs, whatever you're adding this to, whatever you're doing with it will help you. That what I'm saying is that that'll help you decide how big you want it to be. But just as before, we want to just keep adding them in between that row before. They do start overlapping more and more as you get bigger, as you go around the circles. All right. Now, there's a couple of different things that you can do here. What I was just doing just now was that I was adding in between every place. So that means I was actually doing it between the two rows rather than just between the row on top of it. So that's an option. You can do that. That's you're gonna use a lot more petals that way this time. You're not gonna have enough to go around 2 different times. Although you could go back and you know, you can vary how many you do. Again, you're going to have to play with it, decide what you want to do. If you want to make sure that you have 4 complete rows, then you need to make sure that when you go to put the petals on, you're only putting them in between the second row that you did. So for me, I've done them too close together to do that, because sometimes I do them really I space them so that I can do them really close together. So that's what I started doing. But for this one, I'm going to pull that apart and space those out a little more so that they're just between this second row, not between the spaces between the first and the second row, if that makes sense. Okay, so this one is going to go over here. So see, it's just a little bit more spaced out. And honestly, what winds up happening is it's pretty much underneath the first row. This third row will be pretty much underneath. So that means you're going to need to make sure that you pull it up so that it shows. If you tuck it under too much, it's just going to be behind this. Okay, so just keep going around like that. You almost have to decide what it is you're going to do before you get started, or else you're going to wind up pulling a lot of petals off because you'll run out. You'll run out of enough. So it would be like, oh no, what'd I do? Why'd I wind up with not enough petals? So just kind of plan out what you want to do, which kind of style you're going to do before you get started, and then you won't have any problem. Excuse me. You see how bulky it is in back. This is one that really has a bulky back. Which, I mean, it's fine. It doesn't show. But some of them just wind up being a lot bulkier than others. This is the last one on this row. Okay, so, and again, like I said, at any point you can stop. You can say, well, that's as big as I need this to be. I don't need to go another row. But in your kit, you do have enough to do 4 rows. So now this next row, the petals are going to be behind what was in that second row. So they're going to be like that. So it's going to be in between the row you just did and directly behind the second row that you did. And I think I was trying to decide if I want to leave. I don't think I will. You on this last row, you could leave those hanging down if you wanted to. The extra length of the petals is what I mean. Once you're on that last row, it's not as important to cut them off because you're at that point you're almost done. But if you do, it's going to help you to have more of a flat area right here in this center part rather than it being really, really mounded up. So it might make it a little easier for you to place this on your project, whatever it is you're doing with it. These sunflowers are super cute in wreaths. I'll tell you that, and they're big, big, they take up a lot of space on a wreath. So for a fall wreath that you're doing, or if you, like I said, you can vary how you do this center, and then you could use it for almost any season. Changing your colors up and changing up that center so it doesn't look so much like the inside of a sunflower. Could look more like a daisy, I guess. And you could do colors for spring or summer. Two more. I'm actually going to keep those, and then we'll kind of cover that center part, make it look a little neater. Okay, see, that looks a little neater than it did, but you still have a pretty flat surface right there that you can place it on your project. Okay, so this one is a little bigger than most of the flowers that we do, but that's your sunflower. Thank you very much. Have a great day.